Chapter 3. James feels like he knows what muggles mean when they say the word magic. They don't mean spells or wands or cauldrons. Well, okay, yes, sometimes they do. But in those moments when the word slips out of them, all quiet and reverent, like they can't help it, that's something different. James knows that, because it's how he feels when he's flying. Magic. The sun is only just rising above the horizon, and even in his leather playing gloves, James's hands are still half frozen to his broom. The warm dawn light reaches across the great lake towards him like fingers, the air crisp and sweet, the way it only gets in the fall. Motherfuck! James misses the rest of the curse as he snatches the quaffle out of MacDonald's hands and zips off down the pitch towards the opposite goal. Pruitt and Abbott put up a good defense, but James is in top form this morning. They can barely touch him. He grins as he watches the ball sail through the middle hoop, out of breath in the best way. You're a junkie, you know that? James pulls his broom around to meet Sirius, who's floated up lazily behind him, beater's club across his shoulders, arms resting on top, like he can't be bothered. Please, you love it as much as I do. James tries and fails to push the sweaty hair out of his face. Not at 7 a.m, I don't. We don't even have anyone to impress. He nods cheekily towards the empty stands. James rolls his eyes. Like you aren't showing off for MacDonald. I'll have you know Mary and Mai's relationship has far surpassed such childish games. Uh-huh. Sirius smirks. Don't worry, Jamie. One day you'll meet a girl with eyesight as bad as yours, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Oi! He reaches across to punch Sirius's shoulder, but the Pratt swerves out of the way, cackling. For your information, there are plenty of Black! Potter, stop flirting and get your asses down here. They both peer over their brooms at the ground, where a very small and very angry-looking Frank Longbottom is glaring up at them. Well, they assume he's glaring. The details of his face are a little blurry at this height. You think he wants us to go down there? Sirius asks lightly. Hard to tell, James muses. He's not being very clear. So obtuse, our Frank. Always speaking in riddles. Though, Sirius adds thoughtfully, looking around, it does appear that everyone else is gone. And if they all jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? James does his best impression of his mother, and is glad to see Sirius struggling to hold it together. Might, he shrugs. Depends on the day, really. I will kick you both off this team, so help me God. Sirius lets out a dramatic sigh. That really can't be good for him. And he has such a lovely singing voice, James agrees. I suppose we should go down. For his sake. James nods in agreement, meeting Sirius's eye and grinning. We're nothing if not considerate. Frank makes a point of not looking or speaking to either of them when they finally land on the field, choosing instead to aggressively gather the rest of the straying team back together. They form a rather grumbly half-circle around him. Pruitt, just call me Alice, Frank, honestly. We've been dating for 2 years. Not on the pitch, Pruitt. Alice arches her brow. Oh, really? If memory serves, we were dating on the pitch last Friday night. Sirius snorts, earning him a pointed glare from a very red-faced Frank. Right, fine, Alice. She smiles brightly at him. Your defense is weak. You and Abbott are leaving the center wide open. Stop making the first move. You gotta play hard to get with your chasers, and communicate with each other. Aye, aye, Captain. No more fucking the chasers on the first date. Frank looks in danger of exploding. God, Sirius sighs beside him. I think I'm in love. She's taken, Black. Frank shoots at him, running a hand over his very flustered face. Just don't even think about it. Alice winks at Sirius across the circle, causing him to fake swoon into James's arms. MacDonald. Frank redirects his focus, very determinedly not looking at either Sirius or Alice. You gotta make sure not to get too cocky. You thought you were home free and you stopped watching your sides. Potter snatched that quaffle off you practically mid-goal. Yeah, I'd like to see him try it when I'm not half asleep on my broom. Name the time and place, MacDonald. James grins, earning him a rude gesture in return. McKinnon, Black, that was a good practice. But Sirius... Oh, he gets a first name, Alice says mockingly. Yeah, well, you should have seen the things we did on the pitch last Friday. Sirius waggles his eyebrows suggestively, and Alice looks like someone's just told her it's Christmas morning. Enough, Frank says quickly, holding his hands out like he can shove the innuendos back down their throats. The pair of them are far too pleased with themselves. Black, Frank says through clenched teeth. Don't drop your club. I want you in a prepared position at all times. Understood? Got it, Captain. No more fucking the chasers on the first date. He winks at Mary. Frank truly looks like he's on the verge of some kind of breakdown. Forget it. I give up. You lot are a bunch of heathens. Aw, but Frank, Marlene says cutely, we're your heathens. He gives her a flat stare. Get out of here, all of you. Be back tomorrow, and be on bloody time. This last comment is directed specifically at Sirius, who gives him a salute as James pulls him toward the change rooms before he can get himself murdered. 20 minutes and several towel whippings later, James and Sirius are making their way back up to the castle, Mary and Marlene promising to catch up with them later. They always take ages getting ready after practice. Not that Sirius is much better. James reckons he'd still be standing in front of the mirror coiffing his hair if it weren't for him. Merlin, did you swallow a wild animal or something? Sirius laughs as James's stomach lets out a particularly obscene growl. Listen, it's not my fault Frank has us running drills before the house elves are up. I'm sorry, is James Fremont Potter actually complaining about Quidditch practice? Sirius is far too amused. No, but I am saying we need to remember to raid the kitchens tonight so I can have some fuel in the morning. Sirius makes an exaggerated retching noise. Fuel? Did you just call food fuel? Mate, you've been spending too much time with Frank, you little Quidditch psycho. Oh, shut it. James knocks his shoulder into Sirius, who laughs, the noise echoing around them as they walk into the still sleepy castle. Listen, I'll catch up with you, yeah? Sirius claps him on the back as he starts to pull away. Catch up with me? What, are you ditching me to go shag McDonald already? It's not even noon. Sirius grins. I want you to know that if Mary was up for it, I 100% would do that. No bloody loyalty, James grumbles, only half joking if he's honest. But, as it happens, Sirius talks over his complaining, I'm actually posting a letter. That catches James's attention. With all the marauders at Hogwarts and Sirius's family being, well, his family, Sirius doesn't get much post. Oh? James asks, desperate to pry, but doing his best not to. Sirius rolls his eyes, still smiling. It's to my uncle, you nosy bugger. That clarifies exactly nothing, and Sirius must realize it, because after a brief pause, he pushes on, a little more serious now. My Uncle Alfred. He wrote me first week back. I guess he heard through the family gossip network about my departure. James nods slowly, not entirely clear on what kind of story this is going to turn out to be. Besides, years of knowing Sirius have taught him when to push and when to wait. I've only met him a few times. Nice guy. Quiet. He trails off for a moment, fingers fiddling with the sleeves of his robes. Anyway, he said he wanted to reach out, make sure I was okay, and he was proud of me. Sirius ducks his head a bit, embarrassed. He can boast and brag all day, but give him a genuine compliment, and he has no idea how to handle it. That's... James searches for the words. Nice and unexpected. Sirius laughs, hand rubbing the back of his neck. Yeah, tell me about it. Anyway, I've kind of been writing to him a bit. Not that I minded cutting them off. I didn't. I know, James says quickly, trying to soothe the defensive tone in Sirius's voice. His friend nods, expression thoughtful, eyes not quite meeting James's stare. But it's comforting, I guess, knowing not every member of my family wants me dead. He tries for brevity and fails, but James offers him a weak smile anyway. That's good, Pat. I'm happy for you. Sirius looks up finally. Yeah, yeah, thanks. He's got wicked taste in music, too, for an old man. Says he's going to send me some Muggle records. James arches his brow. Your uncle listens to Muggle music? I know, right? What a trip. I think he's secretly a bit of a rebel. No shit. There's a moment of awkward silence before Sirius nods, seemingly to himself. Well, I'm gonna... He starts walking away backwards, gesturing in the direction of the owlery. Yeah, right. See you later, then. He watches his best friend disappear up the stairs, feeling a little dazed by the whole conversation. He's happy for Sirius, he is. But he's also worried. The Blacks are, well, unpredictable at the best of times. And Sirius barely even knows this guy. What if he turns out to be as bad as the rest of them? What if he's worse? They're not all bad, says the annoying voice in the back of his head. Regulus is... He stops that thought in its tracks, a little irritated with himself for having it in the first place. One moderately okay conversation does not change anything, doesn't all of a sudden make Regulus a good person. But what did he do to make you think he was so bad in the first place? That's it. James has had enough of talking to himself. He does not have to engage with the stupid thoughts in his stupid head if he doesn't want to. He starts walking determinedly in the direction of the great hall. After all, nothing shuts up introspection quite like bacon and syrup. Jesus, do they have to... Remus cuts himself off, grumbling something else that James doesn't catch. He looks up, first at Mooney, who was currently staring down at the parchment in front of him like it just insulted his mother, and then over at the stacks where Sirius is devouring Mary's face. James squints, tilting his head slightly. You think they can breathe like that? Remus makes an indignant noise that reminds James of why he stopped doing his ancient ruins readings in the first place. He looks back at his friend pityingly. Typical of Sirius to go for the bird Remus fancies and then insist on snogging her in front of him on a near-daily basis. Listen, Mooney. He pauses, checking to make sure there's no one around, and then lowering his voice. If you just tell Sirius that, if you tell him how you feel... Remus's head pops up so quickly that James quite literally chokes on his words. What did you just say? Remus's eyes are big with the kind of fear that usually only makes an appearance around the full moon. Whoa, calm down. It's not a big deal. For whatever reason, this does not seem to help matters. I was just saying, I just think if you tell him, the truth, he'll quit shoving it down your throat. He knows that Remus is a private person, but this seems... James knows he's a bloody werewolf, for fuck's sake. Why is he getting so jumpy about a crush? He won't mind, Moons, honestly. It's not like you can help it. Besides, Pads and Mary are about the two most casual people I know. It's not like this means you're never going to get a chance to shoot your shot. James trails off, as it becomes apparent that nothing he is saying is doing anything to dampen the fear in Remus's eyes. How do you know? James blinks, thoroughly regretting this entire conversation. I don't know, just the way you looked in the common room. In the common room? Remus repeats, voice fragile. Yeah, on the full moon. Remus winces. That night is still a sore subject. Remus has mentioned once or twice that he thinks the Marauders should sit out the next one, just to be safe. This idea has been unanimously shot down, of course. Remus, it's really not... James... His voice is strained and instantly shuts James up. Please don't tell him. He won't. James, I'm asking you as my friend, or just please. It hurts. Remus's voice hurts, and James has no idea why. This isn't at all how he thought this conversation would go. Part of him aches that this is how Remus feels about this, how Remus feels full stop. In the dark, on his own, always hiding. And he wants him to know that he doesn't have to. That he's been told his whole life to keep things behind closed doors, but it doesn't have to be that way. But Remus just keeps looking at him like he's getting ready to bolt, and even James has the good sense to know that this is not the time for that conversation. Yeah, Remus, I promise, of course. Remus swallows with difficulty, his next exhale shaky. Thank you. He doesn't look at James. Instead, he starts packing up his books. Hey, wait, Moons, you don't have to... It's fine, he says, stuffing parchment messily into the canvas bag over his shoulder. I'm just tired. He turns away, nearly bulldozing into Marlene in his rush to escape. James sighs, leaning back in his chair and passing a hand over his face. Fuck, he hisses under his breath. He was sure in a rush. Marlene slides into Mooney's now vacant seat across from him. Yeah, James says, shooting a weary look at the door. It's possible I just said the wrong thing. Marlene gasps. What? You? James Potter, the king of tact. Ha ha ha, hilarious. She smiles. I am, thanks for noticing. James lets out a breath that's almost a laugh, dropping his gaze back down to his runes homework. He feels like he ought to go after Mooney, but he's not entirely sure that he knows how to make this better, or even that he knows what happened in the first place. Gosh, they're really going at it, aren't they? James looks up. What? Oh. He follows her gaze to the still very much entangled Mary and Sirius. Yeah, well, you know them. Are they really here if no one's watching? Marlene snorts. True. Her gaze comes back to him, and it looks like all kinds of trouble. Speaking of embarrassing displays of affection, is that what we were talking about? I've noticed you've quit making a spectacle of yourself in front of Lily recently. James lets out an irritated huff, scowling at her across the table. I wish people would stop bringing that up. It's not a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. Besides, James presses on, it's no one's business. Marlene laughs. Oh, come on, James, you've made this everyone's business. Have not. She sends him a flat look, but he doesn't budge, leaning back in his chair and crossing his arms over his chest. Really? What about in third year when you charmed all the pumpkins at the Halloween feast to sing love ballads to her? That was... Okay, maybe that was a little public, but I only did it once. She raises a disbelieving eyebrow. There was also second year, when you made a pink cloud follow her around all Valentine's Day raining petals. Well, and last year, when you filled the Gryffindor common room with about 1,000 lilies before serenading her in front of everyone. James bites down on the inside of his cheek as he feels the heat rising in his face. Or in... Yes, okay, I get it. Thank you. James cuts her off, shoving an aggravated hand through his hair. Marlene looks at him smugly from across the table. I was a right git. Yes, she nods, too amused for James's liking. You were. I'm trying to be... He struggles for a minute. Better. That's good. A moment passes before she leans forward across the table. So who is she, then? James blinks. Who's who? Marlene rolls her eyes. The girl that's distracted you from Lily. James is genuinely at a loss for words, which rarely happens. He splutters for a moment, gawking at her. There's no girl. And then, realizing what he's just said, backpedals. I mean, there have been girls, obviously. Obviously, Marlene repeats mockingly. James chooses to ignore her. But there's no other girl, he sighs, collapsing a little. Just Evans. Always has been. Marlene eyes him curiously for a minute before shaking her head. I don't buy it. Don't buy what? She waves her hand. You, James Potter, are romantic. There's no way you would just give up on Lily without someone else to expend your wooing energy on. Okay, first off, who said anything about giving up on Lily? I have not given up. Secondly, wooing energy? Really, McKinnon? She laughs. It's a nice sound, Marlene's laugh. Bright and warm. The kind that makes you feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. All right, not my best, but the point still stands. James looks at her flatly. Oh, sorry, you had a point? But the mischievous look hasn't left her eyes. I'll figure it out, you know. James sighs dramatically. Yeah, well, when you do, let me know. I'd really like to be aware of who I'm wooing. She opens her mouth to speak when another voice cuts her off. Mar. James feels his heart flip. He always does when she's close. Has since he was 11. You'd think he'd get used to it at some point, or build up some kind of immunity. But it's always the same. Always feels like the first time. Like he's never going to remember how to breathe again. Ready to go? Lily stops beside Marlene's chair, barely looking at James. Which is okay. Completely fine. James bites down on his tongue and forces himself to turn back to his homework, holding in the numerous, desperate, and embarrassing things he wants to say. Like, you're beautiful. So beautiful, I can't stand it. You make me feel too big for my skin, like staring into the sun. You're melting my wings. He has no desire to see what Marlene's expression is doing right now. Some mate she is. Couldn't even give him a heads up that she was waiting for Lily. Potter? James blinks at the sound of his name being spoken by Lily's voice. Carefully, he looks up. She asked you how you are, James, Marlene says after a few more seconds of silence pass. Oh, James says, which is a ridiculous response, so his brain quickly tries to remedy the situation by adding, I'm doing runes readings. Marlene looks like holding in her laughter is physically painful, while Lily just looks confused. Right. Marlene, should we... What about how you... Fuck. I mean... All right, Evans? The confusion on Lily's face does not dissipate, and James prays to the soul of Godric Gryffindor for the floor to open up and swallow him whole. I'm fine, she says wearily, before sending a pointed look at Marlene. Let's go? Marlene nods, shoulders shaking with laughter. See you at practice, James? James does his best to channel Sirius when he glares back at her. Yep, you sure will. She at least has the good grace to look frightened by that. He watches them leave, pathetically. He watches Lily's hair, so long now it's nearly past her waist, watches the way her mouth flicks into a sharp grin, her eyes bright and trained on Marlene, giving her the attention James would kill for. And just as they cross the threshold, moving out of sight, he hears her say, What's his problem anyway? He hasn't been sleeping well since the full moon. He closes his eyes, and he's back in the forest. He can't see, but he hears Sirius screaming. He fumbles around in the dark until his hands touch something warm and sticky that smells like iron. Then he wakes up. Every time he feels like something in his chest is caving in, his hands and legs shaking as he resists the urge to rip back the curtains around Sirius's bed and make sure he's okay. Make sure Mooney didn't turn him inside out, that he got there in time. It's stupid. He's too old for nightmares. With a huff, James turns onto his side, the steady breathing of his roommates letting him know they're all asleep. He punches his pillow, lays back down, stares up at the canopy over his head. He counts centaurs like he used to do when he was little. He recites the ingredients to the Alahasti draught they learned in potions this week. He imagines he's flying. None of it works. Eventually, he gives up, pulling his legs over the side of the bed and scrubbing at his face. He could go down to the common room and try and get some work done, or maybe sneak into the kitchens. Do they ward off the Quidditch pitch after curfew? James reaches carefully into the drawer of his bedside table and pulls out the map. Maybe once he figures out where Filch is patrolling, he'll have a better idea of what to do. Except Filch's name isn't the one that catches his eye. The map unfolds on his lap, and almost instantly he sees it. All alone in the astronomy tower. Regulus Black. James blinks, double-checking that he isn't making it up. Nutter, he mutters under his breath, but he doesn't take his eyes off the name. He's probably up there yelling at the sky again, although why he's doing it at 2:30 in the morning, James can't fathom. A few more minutes pass before he sighs. Fuck it. He shoves his feet into his trainers, not bothering with the invisibility cloak as he throws a gray hoodie over his bare torso. He checks the map periodically as he moves through the halls, but Filch is on the other side of the castle, and Mrs. Norris appears to be outside doing who knows what. He takes the stairs to the top of the astronomy tower 2 at a time, tapping the map closed when he reaches the door at the top. For a second, he wavers, wondering if this is really the best idea. But then, that's never stopped him before. He shoves the map into the waistband of his pants and gently opens the door. Regulus is standing in front of his telescope, just like he was the last time, engrossed enough that he somehow doesn't hear the door. Alistair Moody invades James's thoughts long enough to shout, "Constant vigilance," at the back of Regulus's head. He bites the inside of his mouth to keep from laughing. Unlike James, Regulus is not in his pajamas, but instead a pair of formal-looking trousers and a button-down, his robes discarded in a pile by his feet. James leans back against the wall behind him and watches as Regulus's fingers meticulously work the knobs of the lens. Okay, I give up. What are you doing? Regulus whips around, drawing his wand without a second thought and pointing it right at the center of James's chest. Maybe him and Moody would get along after all. James raises his hands in surrender. On edge, much? Regulus only glares. What the fuck are you doing here? Couldn't sleep. So you came to the astronomy tower? You sound awfully judgy for someone who is also here. The glaring intensifies. James nods at Regulus's wand. You going to lower that thing? Haven't decided, the younger boy bites out. Well, let me know when you do, yeah? James steps around him and up to the neglected telescope, completely ignoring Regulus's raised wand. He bends down, shutting one of his eyes and peering through the lens. A grouping of stars blink back at him. For some reason, he thought he would understand better once he saw what Regulus was looking at. But he doesn't. He's always been crap at astronomy. Bit late for stargazing, isn't it? He says as he straightens up. Regulus is still standing behind him, tense and sharp-looking, but his wand has been put away, so James counts that as a win. He really didn't fancy getting hexed tonight. I'm sorry, is there something I can help you with? The words are icy, and James can't help remembering himself saying them not long ago in a cramped train compartment. Not really. He tries to shrug off the weird feeling that memory twists in his gut. Told you, can't sleep. He moves towards the railing, sitting down on the ledge and facing Regulus. So what's with the telescope? He can see Regulus grinding his teeth, hands and fists at his sides. Listen, Potter, I'm not sure if our little conversation the other day gave you the wrong impression, but you and I are not friends. James leans back, draping his arms over the railing. Never said we were. Then what? He waves his hand pointedly in James's direction. Are you doing? James arches his brow, holding back a smirk. Pretty sure I asked you first. Regulus just stares at him for a solid minute before shaking his head. God, you're just like him, you know that? Fucking arrogant assholes. Whoa, James interrupts, laughing because he can only assume that the he being referred to is serious. All I did was ask what you were up to. No, you came out here into my space, pretty sure this is public property, but Regulus ignores him, and decided that you have the right to pry. I didn't realize astronomy was such a touchy subject for you. Regulus lets out a frustrated growl, and James half expects him to reach for his wand again. You don't just get to go around doing whatever you like, taking whatever you like. You don't have a right to everything just because you're James Bloody Potter. James blinks, watching as Regulus's chest heaves under his shirt. He's sitting up straight again, taking Regulus in properly. He looks tired. Okay, James says easily. Regulus stares at him. Okay? James nods. You're right. I don't have a right to everything. The younger boy continues to eye him wearily, like he's waiting for the punchline. When none comes, he seems to deflate, and after another prolonged stretch of silence that has James itching to move, he walks over and sits next to him on the ledge. Sorry, he says eventually, the words stiff in his mouth. He stares ahead the whole time, not looking at James once. It's been a bad day. The last words are quiet. James's eyes run over him, his shoulders pulled too far back, hands clutching at his knees. Reg, has it... Oh, don't you dare. He cuts him off. Regulus was bad enough. Let's not be so gauche as to resort to nicknames. James has to bite the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing, Regulus's posh accent coming out in full force. There is something mildly charming about the way that he embraces it. James, on the other hand, has spent years meticulously trying to train the good breeding out of his voice. Has it occurred to you, James pushes on despite the interruption, that I'm not actually trying to take anything from you? No. The answer comes so quickly and so decisively that James finds he's actually startled by it. Why? There's a moment of silence before Regulus finally turns to face him. Isn't that what people do? Isn't that what we do? We, James repeats, feeling a little off-kilter. Regulus must see it because he rolls his eyes. Not us specifically. I meant yours and mine. Our sides. I'm not on anyone's side. It's such an automatic response, James doesn't even think about it. But once he hears the words out loud, he realizes they aren't true. That they can't be. Not anymore. Regulus gives him a piteous once-over. You're such a child. Oi, James says indignantly. I'm older than you. Yes, pathetic, isn't it? But there's the sliver of a smile somewhere in his mouth that takes the edge off. James likes it. Likes when he gets that armor to crack. It reminds him a bit of Remus, if he's honest. The way he was when they were younger. The way he still is sometimes. Hey, Reg, he says after a brief pause. Regulus lets out a huff, dropping his face into his hands. I swear to all that is holy, Potter, if you start calling me that in public, I will end you. This time, James can't stop the laughter from piling out of his mouth. Noted. Regulus waits a beat before dropping his hands and sending him a flat look. Well, your inflection suggested there was a question to follow. James nods, still smiling. What are you doing up here at 2 a.m. with a telescope? Is there something else I should be up here with? A girl would make more sense. Something flashes across Regulus's face that James can't quite catch, and all of a sudden he's looking away again. Did you not listen to anything I said 5 minutes ago? He asks, voice tight. I did, James says slowly. You don't owe me an answer, but I want you to know that I'm asking because I'm interested, not because I want something to hold over your head. That seems to surprise Regulus, though he does his best not to show it. James waits, which really, he thinks, is impressive. He's usually quite impatient. But there's something about Regulus, something delicate, and James finds himself wanting desperately not to break whatever it is that's keeping him here. Still, next to him. Regulus lets out a breath like he's been holding it in for days. We're all there, he says finally, still not looking at James. He wants so badly to ask him to explain, but he doesn't. He keeps waiting. After several painful minutes, Regulus goes on. Me, Sirius, my father, we're all there, together, holding up the night sky. He shakes his head, picking apart his fingers in his lap. I started coming up here in second year, when Sirius stopped talking to me. Up there, we're still whole. I don't know. It makes me think that maybe in a different time, a different world, there's an us that's still... There's a place that's not like this. And oh. Because how does he respond to that? How does he even begin to hold all those feelings? He remembers third year, remembers Sirius showing up to school covered in bruises he didn't yet know how to erase. He hadn't thought about Regulus, about whether or not he deserved to be lumped in with the rest of them, about whether or not he had his own bruises. Regulus laughs dryly, burying the heels of his hands into his eyes. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud. No, it doesn't, James says quickly, glad his voice doesn't sound as shaky as he feels. He swallows, picking through all the words in his mouth, trying to find the right ones. I think Sirius does it too. That causes Regulus to look back at him, those gray eyes bright in the moonlight. I catch him sometimes, James explains, looking out the dorm window at night. I didn't really think about it before, but James doesn't know what to make of the expression on Regulus's face. Of course, he goes on, smiling a bit. You didn't hear that from me. Regulus lets out a breath that might be a laugh. No, of course not. They sit in silence, but it's not uncomfortable. Not the kind that makes your skin itch. And James almost misses it when Regulus starts to pull away. I should go, he says, getting to his feet. Quidditch practice tomorrow. James feels himself grin. Big match against Hufflepuff coming up. Regulus rolls his eyes, waving his wand and shrinking the telescope back down so he can slip it into his pocket. Hardly. You ready? James asks, resisting the sudden urge to pull Regulus back down beside him. Regulus sends him a sly look. Always. He's at the door, one hand on the handle, but he pauses, standing there for long enough that James starts to wonder if he's having some kind of stroke. I'm not my brother, Regulus says eventually, gray eyes darting up to meet James's. Surprised by the sudden change in topic, it takes James a minute to respond. I know. Just, if that's what... He stops, face scrunching in frustration as he attempts to get his thoughts in order. If that's why you're doing this, if you think you can save me the way you did him, you should know that you can't. James feels his thoughts go in a million different directions at those words, unsure of what to address first. Do you need to be saved, Reg? He manages finally. He isn't sure what he's expecting, but it's certainly not the sad smile that peeks out of the corner of Regulus's mouth. Good night, Potter. James watches the door close behind him.